everybody, and welcome on into Sidelines, presented by Visit Potter Tioga. I'm Drew Patrick. On today's episode, we preview the upcoming softball season, as well as talk to an athlete who got to compete at the USA Track and Field National Championships. Hello everybody, welcome back to Sidelines. Let's talk and preview the upcoming softball season with head coach Edith Gallagher. Coach, thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for having me, Drew.
So let's talk about this year because it's an interesting mix of a lot of new faces you expect, but those kind of younger faces that got experience last year. Looking at this roster, what have been some of the things in that aspect that have stood out to you?
Well, the returners are doing a great job of leading. Like you said, we do have 11 new freshmen, and we have 1 transfer. So I think that the fact that they've played a lot of innings is definitely going to help us.
So what are some of the things, especially early on in the season, living in and where we do, where sometimes the weather doesn't always cooperate, that is the most important part of this first weekend of getting ready to play and having that on the field experience, not experience, that might not be the right word, but on the field actual things that you can focus on against not your team.
Right, to see other hitters, because we go against each other all the time, so we do know the tendencies and we know what our pitchers throw. So, and to be on an actual field, we have not been on a field yet, and we won't till we come home from spring break. We won't be on our own field traditionally. So being on hopefully a dirt infield and just playing balls, getting out there playing, seeing, like you said, other teams, and then you know what you have to work on for the next week before you play again. So it's a good setup. So
one of those returners, let's talk about the pitching. One of the returners, Danny Goff, has had kind of a down season last year, but has, in the conversations I've talked with her, she's confident, she's ready to go. What have you seen from her in her focus, and really, I guess, the rest of the pitching staff that you've seen?
Yeah, Danny had a preseason injury last year that she gutted through, but that had a lot to do with Danny having a little bit of an off year. So she is healthy, been in the weight room, been working the whole off season, and she looks really good this spring. Had a great fall, so yeah, we're looking for her to be right back on track.
And then with the rest of the pitchers, what can you expect, or what can we expect rather, from the pitching staff this year?
Well, we've got 3 rookies, so they're going to do a great job, but there's a learning curve to playing not only in Division II but also the PSAC. So we look for them to grow with each game and learn. And so we're working a lot on not throwing the balls right on the plate and working the outer corners and mixing our pitches and our speeds. So they're going to do a really good job for us, but there might be some bumps early.
That's one of the things that we look forward to for the spring break trip, the early before you get into the gauntlet that is the PSAC. Yes. And we'll get back on that in a little bit, but let's quickly switch gears to focus on the field and the hitters. Let's start with the fielding, because that's a crucial part of this game. What have you seen, and what really can you have seen, as you mentioned that you haven't really gotten on dirt yet? It's been in the gym and on the turf, but what have you seen from the fielding that you can take away from the early season part of that?
That we do a really good job in situations, knowing where we should go, playing through, one error, but, just coming right back and being really gritty. So we return our corners and then Watson at second base as well. Currently, our shortstop, Natalie Blackstone, who was a 2-year starter for us, she is out with injury. So we'll see some new faces there.
And then on the flip side of that, at the bat this year, what can we expect when the Mounties are batting?
some excitement. So we have a little bit of everything. We have a couple power hitters in the lineup. And then we have 2 slappers, and then we have a mix of some rookies and veterans that, you know, they aren't really a pure power hitter and they're not a slapper, so they're somebody that's like a contact hitter. They can do a great job of, you know, putting the ball into all fields. And so I think we have a really good balance in our hitting lineup.
Is that something you've tried to, like for those really good contact hitters, is that ever something you try to work with them to be like, hey, maybe you could be a slap, or do you specifically use them for that role? Most
of the times in college, slappers come to college as a slapper already, and our 2 were both turned into slappers in high school. So I have not turned anyone on the current team into a slapper.
Well, and it's going back to kind of these early games in the spring break trip, and how important it is to get those live reps before the gauntlet.
Really important. And like you said, you know, we won't be on a field generally before we leave. So, you know, 10 games over spring break, the 4 games before we leave, all of it, you know, helps you prepare for the PSAC, who, you know, we've gone to this brand new 32-game format. So gauntlet it shall be.
So looking at that as a whole, kind of what are your goals and expectations for this team this year?
You know, we are really focused on the process and improving, making sure that we're putting in quality reps, quality practice time. It's been wonderful to have our new strength and conditioning coach on. He's doing a wonderful job with their strength program. So I feel like we're in very good shape going into the season. Pretty healthy. We have a couple of, you know, little things going on, but overall, we're really focused on just getting better each time we're out there and just focusing on the process. You know, are we putting in quality at bats? Are we, you know, making sure that we limit our errors, no mental errors? So that's kind of what we're focused on.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. I know for a fact you are as well. And thank you so much for taking the time and stopping by.
Well, thanks, Drew. We appreciate it.
And Sidelines continues after this. Do not go anywhere.
It's all part of Mother Nature's perfect blend, the keystone of the Keystone State. Visit Potter Tioga, a 2-county scenic outdoor haven conveniently located, yet worlds apart. A place where you can kick back, unwind, and forget about the pressures of life. Disconnect and reconnect with your friends, family, or even yourself while surrounded by nature's beauty. So start planning your adventures today at visitpottertioga.com.
Welcome back to Sidelines. Let's talk track and field, but let's talk with an athlete who has had quite the semester and quite the year for herself, and that's Angie Colon. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you for having me.
So your semester has been very unique, more than just with the events and the type of events that you've been able to attend because of the race walking. So walk me through it. Let's go back. What was it, or when did you find race walking, and what was it about it that you're like, this is fun, I want to do this, and I'm good at this?
Well, it started back in 2017. I was a freshman in high school, and all my friends were doing it. That is the honest reason, and I was really, really bad at it. I was pretty bad at it, I'll be really honest, but ever since freshman year, I was like, this is a cool sport, even though I sucked. But then spring of my freshman year, I started getting like kind of good at it, and I said, wait, this could be my calling, and it's history ever since, I guess.
Yeah, hey, it's been very successful for you thus far. So a lot of people who might look in and really not understand, truthfully, the skill that it takes for race walking. So walk me through that. Like, what is specifically, obviously you don't have to break down fully, but for someone who might look in and might not really know specifically in the kind of steps and what you have to do, give us kind of a little bit of an insight on the skill that it takes for it.
Well, there's 2 rules in race walking. It's not like running where when you run, both feet are going to be off the ground when you're running. It's going to happen. When you race walk, one foot has to be on the ground at all times, and that foot that is on the ground has to be straight, so your knee is straight. So it like does look silly. People call it like power walking or speed walking or mall walking. That one's my favorite. Or running to the bathroom. Like, there's crazy names for it, but it does take a lot of skill, and it's more muscles than running. And yeah, it's a lot of work.
Do you find like doing it, you get kind of the muscle memory of it, or do you still have to actively think of the steps?
No, that's a very common question I ask. People are like, sometimes you just like run. No, it's muscle memory. It just comes natural. It's not like you can forget it and never know how to do it again. It's kind of like riding a bike, I guess.
So let's talk about some of the things you've done this semester thus far. In the record book a couple of times, and not really close on some of those records at Mansfield. Let's start with some of the mile race walk events that you've done, including one that you got to compete in the Milrose Games at the Armory, which is an incredible experience. Walk me through some of those early meets for you.
Well, I had my first, I guess, to qualify for Milrose. I walked the mile, and that's when I first got the mile record. And I was coming off like a back hip injury, so I wasn't expecting to go that fast and break the school record. But then once and I did no speed work. It was just all like building my volume up and nothing crazy, and I still broke the school record. I still don't know how. And then for the Milrose Games, we knew I was going to go break the record again. We knew that I was going to get close to like a 7 flat, but thankfully the Armory is also a bank track, and and that race went out pretty quick, so that's why I also got that school record.
It also, how difficult then is it to keep that straight leg on a banked track? That's got to be difficult. You love the bank track because you can go faster, but in a one where the skill of keeping that leg down is so important, is that challenging then?
It's not as challenging as keeping the leg down. It's more of like your hip, because your hips are like that. But the officials know that our technique isn't going to be like crystal clear, and they're going to realize that the hip is up a little bit more, but they're usually pretty good about it. So.
And then of course this past week, moving from the mile to the 3K. So let's start there of the challenges to put on the more mileage there. Is that more just muscle, or is that an active like kind of head strategy you have to come up with?
I prefer longer distance, so anything over 3K is fine. The 3K is still technically a sprint in the race walk world, but there wasn't really, there was like a different race plan and stuff like that, but pretty much all the same. It's a sprint, so.
So walk me through this race. Obviously the USA Track and Field National Championships, a massive event, the only college athlete in this event, which we'll get back to that because that's incredible. But walk me through the event, walk me through this race.
I was really, really nervous, but because for Milrose, there was a few other college kids and older high schoolers, so it wasn't as bad. Like there's still people my age, but I was the youngest by 7 years, and all these women have been in the sport for at least 2 decades, and it was kind of intimidating. But right before we walked out of this really cool tunnel, and they were playing hype music, one of them turned to me and was like, "You're the only college athlete here. That's a win in itself." And I was like, "Yeah, that's it." And they were like, "Walk your own race, not obviously run, but walk your own race." So,
how is the camaraderie there? You are racing with people who you said have done it, are at the top, are on Team USA. These are the best of the best, and to be in a race with them, and what has that camaraderie been like?
They're extremely supportive. We say like Racewalk is just a different sport, and like only race walkers will understand it. And like before the race, they were like hyping me up, like, you got this, girl. And then after the race, like I know some of us went to lunch together, and like we all cooled down together, and like we're all like genuinely like friendly with each other. Like we don't hate each other, but like on the track, it's a different story. But they're extremely supportive, and I've been looking up to these women because 2 of them are Olympians. One of them's an American record holder, and like I'm like, wow, like I'm just here with them, like no biggie.
Got to run a race with them, against them. Yeah, on the track, I'm sure it's all business, all like focus. But that's great. Like you said, it's such a sport that I think, obviously track and field lends itself to that. In general, you have your unique sports and your unique events that you try. But Racewalk, an event that it's kind of overlooked at times, and to have that camaraderie with Olympians and people, that has to be an incredible. What has been your biggest takeaway from this experience going down to the indoor championships?
Well, it kind of has to relate to Melrose last year. Last year, Melrose was my very first USATF Nationals, and I was one of the youngest again. But this year, I told myself I want to be a competitor, and I want to like scare people, and I did do that for the national championship in Albuquerque, where I went out in probably lap 8 to go probably, and I just took off, and I led a pack, and the 2 girls that I ended up going in front of, they were like, you gave us a scare. So that's kind of what I want to do. I want to be like, I'm a real competitor. So it showed to me that I can do this, and I'm not just a little girl anymore, and as Coach Mike would say, like the big leagues. So yeah.
Absolutely, the big leagues. So looking forward towards the outdoor season for you, what are some of the things kind of on the horizon for you in the outdoor and some of the events you have on your mind?
Well, I already qualified for Penn Relays, so that's a 5K. But before that, we may, I think it's a yes, we may try my first 10K of the season. I personally love the 10K, so I'm very excited. And it will be on Long Island, like where I'm from, so that'll be very exciting. So will be early April, and then end of April will be Penn. And then hopefully we will qualify for Outdoor Nationals, and that will be my first shot at Olympic trial standards. So Olympic trials is the main goal. So we're going to try to get the standard for outdoor. Yeah.
That is incredibly exciting, and we wish you the very best. We want to see you an Olympian down the road.
Hopefully.
Definitely. Well, Angie, thank you so much for taking the time and stopping by, and congratulations once again. And Sidelines continues after this. Do not go anywhere. That is all, folks. To stay up to date on all things Mansfield athletics, head over to GoMounties.com. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you.